If you're listening to this, then I am most likely dead. Even the most bone-chilling, spine-tingling, A24-produced indie horror would pale in comparison to the horrors I've faced in the past week. I owe it to the world to warn you all, even if it's with my last breath. It all started last week. My good friend Phil was visiting me in Reno for Goonfest 2025. We had an absolute blast checking out the stalls of various famous gooners and the reconstructions of their goon caves. We were perusing a particularly zesty collection of BBC sissy hypno literature in one booth when I felt a sickly and clammy grip on my shoulder. I spun around to face the person violating my personal space, but instantly cried out in horror. In front of me was a lanky and deathly pale 6'4" trans woman with broad shoulders and 5 o'clock shadow only an hour past breakfast. Zier face was covered in acne and herpes sores, and an odor of rotting fish and raw sewage was enough to overpower even my progressive sensibilities. Worst of all was Zier's cold, dead stare that froze me in my place as I gagged and sputtered as if a full-length giga-nigga BBC had been rammed down my throat. By this time, my friend Phil had rushed to my aid and cried out as he struck the tranny's arm, only to recoil and wail in pain. Unfortunately, the soy diet had not been kind to him. Still paralyzed in fear, I was helpless and unable to resist, as the troon picked me up with the strength that only a male puberty could provide and threw me over Zier's shoulder. I was abducted and a bag thrown over my head. The tranny roared and bellowed as it carried me out of the casino convention center. Most people thought it was a performance art and also stunning and brave. Many folks complimented the beauty of the trans woman. "OMG, she is so attractive," said one man. It was a short ride on public transit through the heckin' walkable neighborhood before we arrived at the apartment that would be my torture chamber. At first, it didn't seem so bad as I was finally released and the bag removed from my head. I was in a dark and dingy room with feces smeared on the white walls. The troon hissed and seethed, which seemed to summon its master. A deep, bellowing voice rumbled from the room next door. "Hey, oh motherfucker, you find a white boy twink yet?" The troon only snarled and snapped at me. I was too turned on by the undeniable melanin pheromones emanating from the other room to pay the tranny any attention. My TWP sissy clit was tingling in anticipation. I didn't have to wait long as the gargantuan melanated brute swung the door open and stomped into the room. I was in awe at this fine specimen far superior to my own pathetic race. I instantly fell to my knees and pleaded for him to unleash his massive throbbing BBC and take me as his concubine. The Vanta Black Hulk only grumbled about bitch-ass crackers. I looked up to see him scratch his muscular ass and trudge away to the kitchen. My heart sank as I realized that I was too pathetic to even be black bull breeding stock. I begged for forgiveness and a chance to prove myself as a world champion Mandingo worshiper. Unfortunately, my pleas fell on deaf and socio-economically challenged ears. The 7-foot-tall beast was already snorting his second line of meth. I couldn't help but curse my ancestors and entire race for failing this man. Once he finished the line, the ebony giant slammed his fist down on the countertop, shattering the tile and letting loose a primal roar. He stomped back into what I had now realized to be the living room/gaming room due to the Alienware desktop and Twitch streaming setup. "You finna be groomed and trooned by Jessica here? But you ain't never gonna be worthy of servicing this 2-foot black dick or handling my virile black seed?" I cried my sissy white male tears. My lifelong dream of being a BBC breeding slave was crushed in an instant. Ever since this moment, I have been the plaything of Jessica, the valid trans woman. It shames me to say this as a staunch progressive who wrote in abortion rights for the 2024 presidential election and sperm banked for Bernie. But I don't think Jessica was mentally well. But this had nothing to do with her status as a trans woman, of course. My days have consisted of getting flogged and beaten by massive, oversized dildos. My nights are spent sleeping on a mattress soaked in all kinds of unknown fluids. I can already feel the syphilis setting in. Worst of all was the constant sound of Fallout New Vegas from Jessica's computer. My story has now reached the present, where I am writing this note in feces on a roll of toilet paper I stole. I plan to toss this out the window when Jessica is asleep or gooning. Hopefully someone will read it and find me. I may never be rescued. I don't even know where I am. All I know is that every day is torture, and I'm not strong enough to endure it. I'm already planning to end it all, either by misgendering Jessica and suffering her murderous rage, or by inhaling some of Tyrone's beloved duster and paint thinner. To my dear friend Phil, I hope you don't think harshly of black men or trans women after this. I would totally get you canceled and fired from your job if I was still alive.